Hey everybody, I'm Connor, that's Doug, and welcome back to the 5th season of the award-winning Bethel School District Presents podcast, the greatest podcast in the history of all podcasts, and we hope you've had a fantastic summer. We hope you're ready to get rocking, because we've got an excellent show to kick off this 5th season. We're going to be talking all about some exciting news about our budget, but before that, Douglas, it wouldn't be us if we didn't have a little useless trivia. So kick off this season. Give us your best shot.
Well, I will. Like Bonnie Tyler, I will hit you with my best shot. Fire away. Did you know? Actually, let me phrase my useless trivia in the form of a question. First, how would you describe to me a Viking?
A Viking. I would look in the mirror. So that guy.
So a tall drink of water, burly, very
ruggedly handsome.
There you go.
If I say so myself.
Well, did you know the average shoe size for a Viking was size 7?
So they were short kings.
Yes, they were. And this is from the Jorvik Viking Museum, which is in York, UK. They actually have some shoes that they excavated from a Viking settlement there, and the average shoe size was size 7. Crazy thing, they actually also wore socks. I never really thought about the sartorial choices of our Viking cousins, but they did have socks. They found one sock there, and the way they made it was called single needle knitting, and so they recreated one sock just to see how long it took. It took them 40 hours to make one sock. All right, well, what is your useless trivia to kick this season off, Connor?
Well, Douglas, did you know that crickets can tell you the temperature?
Really?
Yes, believe it or not, it's true. To get the temperature in Fahrenheit, count how many times a cricket chirps in 15 seconds, then add 37. This odd little party trick was formulated by an American physicist named Amos Dolbear and published in 1897 in the aptly titled scientific paper, The Cricket as Thermometer. So apparently the whole thing works because crickets are cold-blooded, meaning their body temperature fluctuates with the surrounding air. So when it warms up, their metabolism speeds up, causing the chemical reactions that trigger their muscles to happen faster. As a result, they chirp at a higher frequency. My source on that one is the old Farmer's Almanac.
That is really interesting. So it's how many times a cricket chirps in 15 seconds, and then you add 37.
The hard part, I guess, is singling out one specific cricket's chirping because there's usually more than one of them.
Growing up in Virginia, I had a cricket in my bedroom one night, and it chirped 10,000 times a second.
So it was hot that day.
Yeah, I didn't sleep very much that night. I was trying to get it out of the wall.
Telltale cricket.
I love that. Well, let's get on to the business of the day. We are talking all things budget. We're kicking off the new school year with a tale as old as time, school district budgets. And our school board actually got a preview of the budget at the end of June. And that gives the board and the community time to really dig into it, process before they're going to actually adopt it in August. That'll actually be next week, August 11th. And you can attend that meeting in person at the Educational Service Center or via Zoom. The link is on our website, bethelsd.org.
And this all comes on the heels of a bargaining agreement with our teachers union, which happened before school got out, and that's exciting news to have everyone back and happy and ready to teach.
Yeah, that was actually a huge moment and just great work to everyone involved in the bargaining process. School Board Director John Manning said he actually couldn't remember a time that an agreement had been reached before school got out, and he's been on the board nearly 2 decades.
I would just like to reiterate thanks to the district's team and BEA. I think this is the first time since I've ever been on the board that we've had a contract in place before we start looking at a budget. So thanks again to the team and BEA.
Thank you, Director Manning. That is really important context. We tried to dig back to see when we wanted to know what record was broken this year in having a contract before the summer months, but nobody that's institutionally been here can remember when that has happened. So we're thinking that's 30 plus years.
So that voice at the end was Superintendent Brian Lowney, of course, and he said that this budget comes on the heels of a hard budget season that had implications for K-12 education across the state, especially right here in Bethel.
And we're going to talk about those issues in just a little bit, but just as a reminder to everybody listening, all districts in the state get audited by the state. And by the way, Bethel just completed our audit, and it's another clean one, so well done to our finance team.
So as we get into talking about the budget, it's important to know that for school district budgets, like our own personal budgets, it's nice to have a little cushion there sometimes. And that's why it's really important for districts to have a savings account. Those are called a general fund. At the end of the 25-26 school year, we expected our general fund, which is reserve money, and we thought it was going to be $32.5 million. It actually ended up about $500,000 more than that.
We anticipate the year to end at $33 million, which is about 8% of revenue and expenditures. And $33 million is actually about 1 month of expenditures for the district.
That was Chief Financial Officer Christine Donnelly, and I love how she put that, because when we hear a number like $33 million, just to an individual, that is a ton of money.
Absolutely. That'd be a ton of money in my bank account, but $33 million to a district that has over 3,000 employees and supports 31 schools, it's like she said, about 1 month of expenditures. So here's Superintendent Lowney talking more about that.
That $33 million-ish fund balance, super critical. And that's when you see districts around us who are struggling. That is a major financial health or financial distress indicator. So when the state runs out of money, what they do is sometimes they shift apportionment. They say, well, we'll give you your version of the money. We won't give it to you in June. We'll give it to you in the next fiscal year in July. For districts who don't have a savings account, they can't meet payroll, because they didn't get their money from the state because the state needed to hold back on giving them their allowance. So we think we're in a pretty healthy spot.
So that was the 25-26 budget. Let's look ahead to the 26-27 budget preview. Now, with most of our money coming from enrollment, that means the more students we have, the more money the district gets to support them. But for the past 4 years, our enrollment has been relatively flat. That's not a bad thing, as there's districts around us that have seen declining enrollment, so we're in a better position than most. Here's Superintendent Lowney again.
Students are our priority. Students are also, from a business model, they're the revenue generator, right? So when we talk about enrollment, the business sense of that is that enrollment is the only thing that drives revenue to the district. And again, the kind of cash flow is important, but really when we're talking business, revenues, we want revenues to be at least as big as expenses.
So we're thinking that our district's going to continue to have about 19,800 full-time students, and due to that trend, we are budgeting for no growth next year as well. That is a conservative approach, yes. Here's Deputy Superintendent David Hammond talking about why it's good to be conservative during this budgeting process.
We could budget based on 30,000 kids if we wanted to. At the end of the year, we'd be in a lot of trouble. And when you see what we budget for and what our actual enrollment is, our trend over time at the end of the year, we are pretty darn close. I think last year or this year, we were within 20 kids. That's 20,000 kids, and we're within, the margin of error is ridiculous. We're identifying trends early. We identified the kindergarten trend after COVID and watched it and didn't ignore it and budgeted and staffed accordingly. So that's why you see it's just a very simple thing, but other districts didn't pay attention to those trends. They just went on past practice.
So let's get back to the levies for a second. And once again, we love to thank our voters for approving those levies. We all know those levies aren't just for the extras. Of course, they do fund things the state doesn't, like athletics, but they also fund a host of things the state isn't fully funding. That includes some really big items that may surprise some people.
$20 million is going towards materials, supplies, and operating costs, things like insurance and utilities and keeping the lights on and all the rest. And then $5 million is going to special education. Another portion is going to transportation. You get the picture.
Now, we know there's been rumblings about federal support, and we're not going to get into the politics or the weeds on that, but it's nice to know that federal support is less than 10% of our district's budget. Here's the superintendent again.
Which 10% is still a lot. No one's going to sneeze at $40 million, but it's under 10% of our operating revenue. So we have less grief than some of the folks around us because of the federal money being not quite as big a piece of our pie as it is for some other districts. About half of our federal money is for nutrition, child nutrition. Of the remaining half, it's split evenly between special education. There's some federal money that goes to supplement the state money in special education. And then another half of that remaining half, so a quarter of that money, is title monies that are supporting our most at-risk kiddos.
So the money coming in for the 26-27 school year is $437 million, and the money going out is also $437 million, which means we are projecting a balanced budget.
So that's a lot of cash, $437 million. Where's it all go?
Glad you asked, young Douglas. About 80% of our budget is salaries, benefits, and payroll tax, and the rest is for things like materials, supplies, and other purchase services.
Man, you spent that money pretty quick there.
That's how I roll.
Yeah, it's like my budget at home, too. Money comes in and leaves faster than I even see it. But like we said earlier, we support over 3,000 staff. We're one of the biggest employers in Pierce County, and we support 19,800 students and 31 schools to take care of. It is a lot of work, and it requires a lot of money.
Yeah, and a balanced budget seems like it should be an easy thing to do, but these are difficult times in K-12 education in Washington State, so a lot of work went on and continues to go on behind the scenes to make that happen.
So, Connor, we have a balanced budget. We got another clean audit from the state. All is well in Bethel, right?
Well, let's hear from our board president, Marcus Young, to answer that question for us.
I had a phone call a week ago. I won't say who it was because then you'll know what district it was as well. But the thing that they told me was that they have actually looked at our organizational structure and they are trying to get their district to follow because they have a whole lot of stuff on the top end that has attributed to why they're in the financial strains that they're in.
So, yeah, with other districts wanting to be more like us, I'd say Bethel is doing pretty well right now.
I would agree, and I'm glad you said right now because there's something looming that's going to have a negative impact on us and a whole lot of other districts. That's the LEA cliff.
Now, LEA is Local Effort Assistance. You might remember it as we were talking about our levies earlier this year. Property poor districts like Bethel get LEA money only if their communities pass levies.
And we passed ours, and we were counting on that money, but unfortunately, the state's changing its rules. Here's CFO Donnelly to explain it better.
What that means for us is that we are anticipating less revenue in future years because of this, to the tune of $10 million in 27-28. So looking ahead and anticipating or wanting to have a balanced budget, it's going to be tough knowing that we're going to be down $10 million for sure the following year, unless something in the legislative changes.
Well, Connor, frankly, that sucks.
It really does. There's just no sugarcoating that. And to make matters worse, it's not even impacting the rich districts. Here's Dr. Lowney.
Seattle can raise $1 billion through levies because they're property rich. Even districts around us, a district like Fife can raise a ton of money, all the industrial and business there. So the state has a mechanism to try to make some equity, and that's called local effort assistance, saying, hey, you don't have a lot of property and value, and your voters are doing their part. For that, the state says, to make up that you're not Bellevue or Issaquah or whomever, we are going to kick in money to make some equity for you. The legislature promised an amount of money in the last biennium and then withdrew that promise in this most recent legislative session.
So let's just restate it for the record. We are looking at losing tens of millions of dollars a year from the state starting in the 27-28 school year unless something's done.
And just know that district leaders from across the state, like our own Dr. Lowney, will be speaking with legislators trying to change their mind on this, but it does help for them to hear from regular folks like you and us. That makes a big difference. So reach out to the people that represent you in Olympia and let them know that this isn't fair.
Absolutely. It shouldn't matter what zip code a kid lives in, whether they get a good education or not. And LEA funding helps to level that playing field so our kids in Spanaway, Graham, and Frederickson get just as good of an education as the ones living up north.
Well, thank you for joining us on our first episode back. We're going to have another excellent season of podcasts for you. Starting next week, we'll be speaking with 4 amazing Bethel High School students.
Yes, indeed. 4 students interested in going into the healthcare field. It's going to be a great show, great conversation. We're going to be back with you next week. Thanks for listening.